Welcome to Dunnellon's Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association and
American Legion Post 58.
Good evening and welcome to the Meet the Candidate for the 2020 Dunnellon City Council Forum. So we have, tonight we're going to have a Meet the Candidate. This is your way to get to know your candidates, to get to know their issues, their platform, what they want to do when elected into their seat. The forum is hosted by Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association. I'm Joanne Black, I'm the president, and I'll be your moderator tonight. There's 3 vacant seats in the upcoming elections. Seat 1 is mayor, Seat 2 and Seat 5. DCBA contacted all the candidates and invited them to participate and meet the candidates. Tonight you'll have the opportunity to hear from Mayor Dale Burns, former Mayor Larry Winkler, and Councilman Jay Dugan. Unfortunately, you will not be able to hear from Councilman Bill White, former Councilwoman Louise Kenny, or Jan Cubbage, as they have declined to attend the one-on-one Meet the Candidate Forum. The candidates will arrive at the scheduled time and meet outside the American Legion until called upon. Once they'll come in, they'll answer a few questions. Those questions will be given to them prior to this forum, and then they'll sit down and answer the questions. Once they are done, they will leave out the side door, and so we can clean and sanitize due to COVID-19. The candidates will not be coming in contact with each other just to prevent that for COVID-19. So tonight, like I said, we're going to start off with Mayor Dale Burns. So welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you for participating in our Meet the Candidate. I know I gave you a set of questions so you can read, and add those questions. We may ask you all of them, none of them, or a few, but we may ask you some questions that are on the list. Prior to this, you walking into the American Legion, did you receive a copy of these questions at all from anybody?
No, I have not received a copy of these questions from anyone.
Okay, thank you so much. So what we're going to do is begin our questions, and if you're ready, Mayor, we'll start.
Yes.
So our first question, the government plays an important role in businesses. What will you do as the mayor to help small businesses in our town?
Well, first I'd like to just let people know my love of small businesses. As a small business owner, I at one time had 3 different small businesses. I employed over 100 families, that is, employees who had families. So small businesses are near and dear to my heart. In order to help small businesses, I would continue to do what I've already engaged in doing. One is to bring grants to our city through the tourism board. As we are a tourist town, one of the things I've done is brought the Director of Tourism from Marion County, which I am the Vice Chair of that committee. I brought them over to educate our small businesses for different ways that they can access money that is available to them. The other way that I've helped our small businesses, I had the Assistant Director of the CARES Act from Marion County to come over and spend about 20-30 minutes educating again our small businesses as well as our citizens of ways that they could access a pot of money that went directly to Marion County. And as your representative, that is, I'm one of the council people, all 5 of us have an opportunity to represent you, but as your representative, I have reached out because if I can digress for a minute, I love small businesses. I love what they offer to our community. They are a vital part of who we are as Dunnellon. They're friendly. Our people are friendly, so it's just a natural fit for us to encourage and empower our small businesses.
I have to say, over the past few years, our partnership between the DCBA and the City of Dunnellon has greatly improved, and we'd like to thank you and as I told you before, all the councilmen that have allowed us to have this great partnership. So we have one more. What are your plans to grow the businesses in Dunnellon?
Well, the plans are to continue with our grant process. We have grants that we will continue to reach out for our historic district, our CRA grants, and continue to partner with our chamber. We are looking for any and every way that we can empower our city, our businesses, our neighbors to not only grow, but to prosper in the interim. And with that in mind, it will offer opportunities for our young people who will, instead of Dunnellon having a brain drain, we can actually keep some of our young folks locally. So with these grants and with these opportunities, I believe our city is ready and posed now to enter into the 21st century, not only walking but running towards what the possibilities are for us as a city.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. If elected, what ideas would you propose to increase tourism to Dunnellon?
Again, if I can, I'm going to talk for just a minute about the river. The reason I'm in Dunnellon is our beautiful rivers, and especially the Rainbow River. My grandchildren, myself, my family, my children, my grandchildren, we've all grown up swimming in the river. And one of the ways that I would ensure growth is our ecotourism to bring folks into our city. But I would like to look at maybe even change the paradigm around how we use the rainbow. I would like to see it become more family-oriented, more eco-oriented. That is where kids learn about the otters, the turtles, our birds, the fish, and we become a source to a destination where people come not to party, but they come to bring their families and be a part of something that is great. I personally believe the outdoors offers you or me an opportunity when we're under stress to reconnect with our God and His great creation. And by doing so, we become better citizens, better neighbors, and naturally better small businesses with that in mind.
Very good. Thank you. Now, on those, because we want to increase tourism, of course, what are your plans for the blighted buildings in our downtown area?
Again, as we continue to look at grants, look at opportunities, I think there are a number of ways that we can address the blight. With that in mind, we have to also remember we have had families that are generational families that have lived here in our town, and we have to be sensitive to their needs. So when we start talking about tearing down a home that maybe is a 3 or 4 generation home and is owned by a family member, I think the city has an obligation to reach out to that family and find out if there are grants available or if there are ways that we can connect and not just be a city that's going to bulldoze what we consider maybe blight, but they may consider part of their heritage and part of their history. So I want us to be careful with that. So when we look at the blight in our city, I want us to look at a number of opportunities that we could offer. One is it something that we as a city, we as neighbors can help restore and move forward? If it isn't, how do we turn that particular piece of property or that particular asset into a better asset, not just for one person, but for all of us as neighbors?
Well, thank you very much for that. And that can answer a lot of questions. How would you define your leadership style?
Again, my leadership styles comes from a number of different aspects of my history. One is being a businessman, one is being a banker, one is being a pastor, a senior pastor for years, one is being a staff chaplain in a teaching hospital, one's being a counselor. So my leadership style has evolved, and one of the things that I've learned about leadership is teamwork. If you have a leadership style that is open to the team you're working with, you will see creativity blossom and bloom. With that said, I have high expectations from the people that I am responsible to, and they're responsible back to me. I have high expectations, but I also always set the people that I work with up for success. I think it's very important that people buy in to, in this case as mayor, they buy into our city like our employees do. Excuse me. Our employees, I've found over the last 2 years, are some of the finest people I've had the opportunity to work with. They care about our city. They care about you as a taxpayer, but most of all, their actions prove it. After work, they have spent time with me wrapping presents for needy children for Christmas. They have raised walls for Habitat for Humanity. They've been part of the cleanup efforts that we've done around town. So I think that speaks to my leadership style. I believe that as a leader, you should lead from the front, but you should also stand beside your people and let them see that you don't ask them to do any more than you're willing to do yourself.
Thank you very much. Now, our city has faced years of financial distress. How do you intend to keep a balanced budget?
Well, one of the ways that I plan to keep a balanced budget is what we're already in the process of doing, is look to the experts. And the experts, when I talk about experts, in this case, I'm talking about our state auditor, an auditor that not only does work for our city, but does work for cities all over the state. And they have made very strong recommendations. First, that we have reserves. In case of a good example is COVID-19 just came on the horizon a few months back. We were able to not only deal with that pandemic, but we were also able to continue to function as a city. Last year or the year before, I can't remember, we had a hurricane come through. It allows us, because of reserves, to immediately get people out and about and start moving trees and trash off the roadways so our city stays alive and functional. So we have come out of a very, very tough time. And because of some very wise moves prior to me coming on council, I'll give a claim to Mayor Green and the other council members prior to me stepping in. They helped move our city forward to financial stability. And we're in that place now, and I, with the help of experts and the help of good advice, I pray that we will continue to move down this very stable and steady track that we're on.
So the next question is kind of close and dear to my heart. So when people come to a town, whether they live, they visit, they are tourists, or they want to come and shop, or even open a business, they want to make sure they're safe. And that's where your police department comes in. So speaking of budget, why do you think we need a new police department building?
And I'd like to take a few moments and just reflect on that, because the police department and where we're at with that process is near and dear to me. Our police chief was asked to put together some options about a new police department. Over 2.5 years ago, well, 2 years and 4 months ago, I started this process called being the mayor. And one of my first duties, just kind of making the rounds with all the departments, I went over to our police department, and I was kind of taken aback. I was disappointed that our police were housed in a building that had mold, and not only mold, but was in some disrepair. And our chief was very gracious. He did say, well, we just painted the building, and I thought, wow, well, that's interesting. Maybe I don't see the new paint the way he sees it, but anyways, I asked him at that point, what can we do? And with the help of Linda Fernandez and others, police chief went out and started looking at ways that we could expand our police department, not only through grants and all, that is to add extra officers, but also to make our police station a safe place, a good place for our employees, the people who protect us day in and day out. So police chief came back with some options, but one of the options that stood out for me, and the reason I'm so supportive of it, when he showed us the old, actually it was the old Methodist church, and it has since become another church building, and the name of it escapes me. But when he showed me that building and we walked through, I was amazed. First of all, it's a concrete building. He was showing me where the police would be housed, where the male police officers would get to take their showers, the female officers would get to take their showers. The reason for that is an example where an officer had to jump in the river and save a person. Those are just some of the examples. Other examples are overdose clients or patients that they have to deal with that throw up on them. And instead of having to go home, now they'll be able to go back to that building, and the lady officers will have their own locker room and the male officers will have their own locker room. With that said, also, there was a beautiful inside the sanctuary, a beautiful place for a community center. And I was taken. There is hardly anything that would need to be done to that to bring it right up to speed. And also the chief explained to me how he was so dropped the ceiling, and we were going to have storage, and we would be able to have all our city storage needs taken care of, instead of like when I first started as mayor, I had to move boxes around to make a little roadway into the office that I used for 3 months, just to be there to watch what our staff was doing and make sure that our taxpayer money was being spent wisely. And also the chief took me out and I said, or maybe he said it, but one of us said it, all this space out here, explain to me how we'll use that. And when he said we would have a number of parking space for our downtown businesses, for our historic section, I felt like Chief McQuay had hit a home run. I felt like the city of Dunnellon had got a home run, and I felt like I was on a team that was winning. And again, moving into the 21st century, not just walking, but I feel like we're up and moving kind of fast, getting ready to run into the 21st century. And a new police building will offer us that opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. Now, I'd like to know if you'd like to take this time to let everybody know who you are, how long you've been the mayor, and just give a little bit of about yourself.
Yep, I'm Mayor Dale Burns. I got elected because no one chose to run against me in November of 2018. Prior to that, I was appointed to this position. The position came open. My good friend, Walter Green, stepped down from being mayor, and I felt like he had done such a fabulous job. I knew that I probably couldn't walk in his shadow very far, but I felt like I'd like to at least keep what he had started so valiantly in our city to get us back on track and to keep us focused in so many areas. I felt like I could do a good job at that. And apparently the neighbors decided that was good enough, that and other people decided no one would run against me. So as your mayor, I need you to know that I've spent over 30 years giving back. 30 years of being a part of a community. Wherever I go, my wife and I and my children have been part of a community. We have chose to not only teaching Sunday school, but we have chose to clean up roadways. We've chose to help people who are down and out. And that's part of my history. That's part of who I am. So I want the people to know I'm just a neighbor. I am not a politician. As I'm sure you're aware of, if you've seen my political run, I'm trying to get to every door and knock on it personally and talk to you. The city's a little bigger than I thought it was. Also, with that said, I am a public servant. I'm serving you, the public. That's what I do, and that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do until God takes me home.
Thank you, Mayor. And I have one more question. I'd like to give you the opportunity to set the record straight as to something that has been said about you that is incorrect.
Well, actually, there are a number of things that have been said about me that are incorrect, or let me put it this way, partial truths. But the most blatant incorrect statement happened the other night, Monday night meeting, where I was told that the state had been notified that I'd lied on my application as your mayor. And what the lie supposedly was, and I find this interesting because there appears to be a lot of supposedlys out there, but in this case, this supposed lie was that I had a lien against me and I had covered it up and hid it. Well, I took the liberty to call up to Minnesota. I had a lawyer or lawyer's aide go ahead and write a letter explaining that that particular lie was a lie and that judgment had been dealt with in 2013. And if people would like to know the reason for the judgment, they're welcome to call me or ask me in private. I'd be glad to tell you the circumstances around that. I was trying to help out a couple other people, and I was a 10% owner, and I paid off some debts because they'd gotten themselves in trouble. So that's one of the many things that have been put out there for you to believe as my neighbors. And God bless those that don't.
Thank you, Mayor. We do appreciate you taking the time to join us. Do you have any last words for their voters out there?
I do. I want to talk just 1 second, if I may, on growth. And please understand, neighbors, growth should be fair and impartial. If you come to me and you own property in Dunnellon, you have a right to a fair and impartial hearing about if you want something changed, the zoning looked at. The other thing is I will always look for all the facts. I'll get my opinions and my thoughts out of dealing with you as a neighbor. And I will also make sure that I follow due process as your mayor. And I want to protect our city from any more frivolous lawsuits because people act on their feelings, and when they do that, they put our city in jeopardy. And my opinion does not matter. I may have some very strong opinions, but when it comes to facts, I have to look at the facts and weigh the facts. And then I am a liaison to the city. I represent you when I stand up there and listen to people offer what they would like to do in our city. I am your liaison. And then the last thing, and I said this to a gentleman that had come to our city and offered the plan. I said, Mr. Gissy, I believe in synergy. Your idea, the city's idea, let's sit down and come up with a better idea. And that's the way I look at life. Your idea, my idea, let's come up with a better one. So God bless you. Thank you for listening to me.
Mayor, thank you for attending tonight, and we appreciate it, and good luck during elections.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We're going to have former Mayor Larry Winkler. And just so you know, this is being sponsored by Owls TV Antenna and Satellite, Brandon Bank, and the American Legion Post 58. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Welcome to Dunnellon's Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association and
American Legion Post 58.
Hi, everybody. This is Joanne with the Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association. Again, we're here, in case you just tuned in, we're having the Meet the Candidates for the 2020 Dunnellon City Council elections. We just heard from Mayor Dale Burns, and now we're going to hear from former Mayor Larry Winkler. We've asked his opponent, which is going to be Louise Kenny, to attend and do a one-on-one, but she has declined. So we're going to be speaking to former questions. Hi, Mayor. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good. Today, I just gave you a set of questions that we may or may not, or ask you these questions. We may ask you other questions. Have you ever seen those questions before you walked in today?
Not these, no.
Okay. Thank you very much. So if we can, we're going to get started so everybody gets to know who you are and learn a little bit about you, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, former Mayor Winkler, government plays a role in businesses. What do you, as a councilman, what will you do to help small businesses in our town?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had a small business. My wife and I both. We bought an RV park in Lake City in 1995, I think. And it was a small one. It's 48 units, which is small for an RV park. It was right on I-75 below Lake City. And you talk about working hard as a small RV park or a mom and pop operation. It's hard. You have your taxes is one thing, but you've got your utilities. You've got everything in the world stacked up on you, and when the time is over, you've got no salary. And I know Grant Chance. Some of you may know Grant Chance, the bicycles in town. I talked to him not long ago, and his taxes is $3,000 a year. Now that's Marion County and the city. Now, if you take right now, he can't even buy parts, so he's having a rough time. And you know how many? You can imagine how many bicycles and bicycle parts you have to sell just to pay your taxes. And he's really working on a shoestring right now, and just like all the small businesses in town. I don't know what you want me to do, but I can tell you some ideas. There's places that Inkspot's one of them. The Dunnellon newspaper is one of them. They can provide space free for the city or the Chamber of Commerce to write an ad advertising these small mom and pop businesses. That'll help them out a lot. As for taxes, there's not much you can do. Marion County, I think Dunnellon taxes for Grant Chance is $800. That's not too bad for a business, not too bad. But we don't have any control of what Marion County does. So I feel for small businesses. Tito's a small. I'm sorry. I've called him Tito all of his life. I don't know. What is it? Tito's good, right?
Yeah,
Tito's a small business, and I know he's in a pinch a lot of times. What's your taxes, Tito?
Almost 5,000.
$5,000 a year.
It's 3 stories, 3,200 square foot of floor.
All right. And it hurts too, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
Sure does. How do I feel about taxes? I've started paying taxes when I was 13 years old. I had a paper route in Miami, Florida. And the papers were about a nickel or 6 cents, something like that back then. I'm older than most of these people in here. And when I'd keep my money, and I'd have to go to Western Auto to buy parts for my bicycle. And when I did, I had to pay tax. It was only a penny back then, but it was my penny. And I've been paying taxes now and giving them my penny for 60-some years. And I don't like taxes, but I can't do anything about it.
That's
at
right.
one time.
That's right. The next question I have for you, what are your plans to grow the businesses in Dunnellon? And I understand that you kind of touched on it, but how can you as the city help businesses grow in Dunnellon?
Well, there's right now, there's, I can't remember of any vacant lots. Are you talking about existing buildings?
Anything that we could bring more businesses to Dunnellon?
We can bring more businesses to Dunnellon by advertising for one thing. Advertising Dunnellon. And that would be a partnership with the city council or the city and the Chamber of Commerce. They should partner with that. You can also, the city used to have a grant writer. I remember, I think you were there at the time. Her name was Carol Stanley. You can get grants for businesses, a lot of different things, and they're all out there for the taking. But we haven't had a grant writer in years. About 4 years ago, I ran into a woman in Oak Bend Village, and she was a grant writer for a county in Illinois. And I got to talking to her, and she says, you know, I really miss it. And does Dunnellon need some help? And Eddie was here then, you remember Eddie? And yes, they could use the help, but I don't think they can afford your salary. And she said, all I need is a computer and a desk, and I'm free. I love to write grants. And doggone, she didn't have a heart attack and died 2 weeks later.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
The grant writer that we had more than paid for her salary. However, a lot of people in Dunnellon complained about having another employee in the building, so that went by the wayside. But there is ways that you can do it. 4 small businesses can do
Well,
it.
thank you. We appreciate that.
Mhm.
Now, if elected, what ideas would you propose to increase tourism in Dunnellon?
Advertise. That's the best key. Internet's so popular now. That's how people find the Rainbow River. Just continue advertising, and that's the best way to do it. Best
Okay.
way to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. What are your plans for the blighted buildings in town?
Need to bulldoze down some of them, but that's not possible. There again, you can get grants. Now the one there on Pennsylvania or 41, I think there's a group that owns those 2 buildings right there, right across from Dinkins.
Mm-hmm.
And they were given the grant process to tell them what to do, how to do it, and everything, and it never come about. They didn't turn anything in. So they're out there. The city could do it for them, but technically and usually the individuals have to do it themselves.
Right, so what you're saying, there are grants out there
There
to
are
help with the
plenty of
blighted
them.
buildings.
There's grants, but if we don't get them, somebody else does,
It's true.
and they're there.
Thank you. Before voting on any issue, what are some of the things that you do to help determine or decide your vote?
I study a lot on it. I've learned to separate the vocal minority and the silent majority. I've learned to do that a long time ago. But the best way is to call people or listen to the audience. And that's the best way to determine which way your vote's going to go, because you're working for the people, not yourself. I may have a different opinion, but my opinion doesn't count when it comes to the majority of the people wanting otherwise.
Thank you. Now, our city has faced financial distress for many years. How do you intend to keep a balanced budget?
Well, I tell you, I think it was 2000, it was just, I'm getting older, I forget the date, they just fly by real quick. But anyway, I read in the paper where the city had a debt service of $21 million. And I couldn't believe it, because I'd been on city council before years ago, and I couldn't believe they had a debt service of $21 million. And that's when I went into politics again. And we took that, in the 2 years, we took the $21 million down to about $3.5 million, just by making hard choices. And that's what the city has to do, make some hard choices. That's it. And that's the only way you're going to do it.
And pay the bills like they have been.
That's right.
Now, speaking of budgets, what do you think about, is there a need for a new police department building?
You know what? I know nothing about a police department. I remember when you were the police chief, you were in that old building, And we finally built a city hall, and then we left the whole building to the police department. And everybody knew the condition of the police department at that time. And as far as I can remember, we had a survey of some company that come in and said, this is what it'll take to build a new police station. And it's about $3 million, something like that. Now, I don't know nothing about police stations. You know more about it than me. The needs of a police station is up to the police chief. They know more about it than I do, know more about it than the city clerk or anybody else knows. And so I would depend on his recommendation.
Thank you for that. Is there anything that you would like to say to our listeners? Anything about you to let them get to know who you are?
My name's Larry. I'm 75 years young. I've lived in Dunnellon for 42 years. I come up from South Florida, just like a lot of you did. Some of you come from California. I just met I think the guy over there, yeah, he's an Army guy. Love him. I came up from South Florida. When I got out of the Army, I went to work for the Postal Service. And back then, there was no arbitration rights or anything like that. But a few years later, it happened. They had a union and everything. And it took me 6 years. There was a lot of times that you could move up the ladder if you just put your mind to it. And I did. I went through a lot of different post offices till I got to Dunnellon as postmaster in Dunnellon. And then I went down to Leesburg, postmaster in Leesburg, and retired down there. My wife has been here, we've been married 55 years. She owned a business here in town, Blue Run Realty. You know where State Farm Insurance is? State Farm Insurance. We built those buildings there, the three blue buildings. And we finally sold them, and that's when we went up and got the RV park. That's one of the businesses there. One reason we had, when we rented them buildings out, we gave them low rent. Roxanne Caraway, I don't know whether you remember them. Her husband was a policeman or a sheriff's department. We graduated high school with them, my wife and I. And when she wanted to rent a building, we give her a flat rate of $500 a month, a brand new building. However, we kept her as a tenant, where if we had raised the rent, she would have left. And you know, you don't want to do that. We had a brand new building, we want to keep it brand new, and we want to keep the tenant in there. And we did that, and all up till the time that we sold the building. That's one way for a person that owns a building in town and rents it out. If they do it the other way, they're always working on it. There's a guy by the name of Billy Ogle. You know Billy Ogle? He owns a strip store across from the Rainbow Rivers Club. And he rents out that strip. Dane Myers is in one end of it. It's a revolving door, except for Dane Myers. It's a revolving door because of the cost of the rent. But and I'm gonna stay in Dunnellon. I hope I stay here for another 40 years. Hope so.
The next question I have for you, I'd like to give you the opportunity to set the record straight as to something that has been said about you that is incorrect.
Which one?
It's up to you, or all, doesn't matter.
First of all, years ago, I had a sunshine violation. I was charged with a sunshine violation. And what it amounted to was one of the police officers and the police chief got in an argument. And the police chief called the police officer a dirty, rotten Puerto Rican. And he was a Puerto Rican. And you can't do that. So eventually, he was going to get fired, but eventually they allowed him to retire. Well, before we went through the process, we had an executive session where the city council can go behind closed doors and discuss strategy as how you're going to handle this lawsuit. And we did. And we had 3 lawyers from Tallahassee that represented the city. And they would come down periodically until we got ready for the actual hearing. And I met them all 3, and I talked to them every time they were down here. And when the night came to go in behind closed doors, there was 2 different lawyers. And they give me their names, but I had a lot on my mind because I had to chair the meeting and I had to go through the process now. I forgot to call the two lawyers by their Christian names, and that turned into a lawsuit. It went first to the Marion County, and it was called a frivolous lawsuit. And so it passed on to another court. The lawyer carried it to another court, and it passed on to the appellate court, and then to another court, someplace down in Tampa, Brooksville, something down through there. And I never heard anything about it. I don't know what happened, but it's on the internet. I was charged with a sunshine violation. It's still there, and it tells the whole story. The other one is I just had an ethics complaint against me filed by my opponent, right at the right time, too, because the write-in votes were going in. The ethics complaint is that I've known Dawn Bounds. She's a city administrator. I've known her since she was this big. When she went to work for the city 34, 35 years ago. And when she had her first child, my wife and I gave her a savings bond for her eventually college tuition, and we give her money ever since. And when I got on city council the last time, I donated my salary to Dawn Bounds' daughter's tuition fund in Auburn, Alabama. My opponent filed an ethics complaint. Prior to that, I had gone to the city attorney and asked if that was all right. And he said, absolutely. But he checked it out with the ethics committee first. Dawn did the same thing. Everything was all right. However, when someone files an ethics complaint against a council member, any representative, that process has to go through, regardless of it's been there before. It still has to go through. And the people on the other end, like myself, we have to go through the process too. This time, I found a lawyer in Tallahassee. This ethics committee is stationed there in Tallahassee, Florida, and there's lawyers all around. I see a lawyer over there now. I better watch what I'm saying. They're all around the courthouse up there, ready to take your case, and that's what I did. I've got a hold of a lawyer up there because there's no merit to it, nothing. The other thing is she filed another ethics committee about a recall petition for a woman named Penny Flieger. The Penny Flieger was on the city council, and she got in a scuffle or something. I don't know what happened at, I think it was a Christmas party, and she slapped the city clerk. And there is a witness that's still here in town. So a recall petition was called. I was part of it. So was 3 other mayors. So was a lot of other people, 16 other people. But she filed an ethics complaint against me because I did that. I'm a private citizen then. I wasn't on city council or anything. So the ethics committee, I wrote them a little letter saying, I'm not going to respond to this at all. I'm a private citizen. Don't have to respond to it. But that's the way the system works. When you're in politics, they can call you any name they want to. They can file any complaint you want to. The bottom line is, if you want to go through the process and sue them, you can. But all you get is your attorney fees back. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. And do you have anything, last remarks that you can say to your voters out there?
Yeah, I will. The voters are just about over. I know the absentee ballots are already in. The others are usually, from what I found out, they're older people that I'm used to going to the polls, but my wife changed me last year, or the last election. She says it's easier to do this, and I said, I did this all my life, go to the polls. And I ran into that in Oak Bend Village. It's a retirement community right outside, it's in the city limits. And I ran into that out there. A lot of them likes to go to the polls and vote. And but the opponents that I'm running against, they have been out there. Was Dale here?
Dale was before you.
The mayor was here first. They have beat him up till he's just about ready to give up. I mean, they have punished him for nothing, just all kind of lies. And they started on it with me, but they've quit because I fight back. I really fight back. I had one guy wrote, his name is Wally Dunn. I don't know whether you know Wally Dunn or not. Nice guy, real nice guy. Well, he was my friend, and he wrote some nasty things about me, and I wrote back and clarified them. And I ran into him to a council meeting recently, and I approached him and I said, "What in the world are you doing, Ronnie?" Anyway, I said, "What in the world are you doing?" And he says, "You know, that's crazy. It's all over the internet." I said, "You're part of it, buddy. You're part of it." And I hadn't heard from him since. He hasn't done anything. But we, at the last city council meeting, the last workshop, when I was there, the mayor that's running against Dale Burns, he's got a lot of baggage. He's been here 3 years. He don't even know where the city limits starts and end. But he's running for mayor. And like I say, he's got a lot of baggage. All you have to do is look it up on the internet, and it's some awful stuff on there. And one of them was a bankruptcy. And it included a jockey. He's a horse trainer. And he had this jockey ride a horse that had been doped
Well,
up.
former mayor, if we could, since he's not here to actually defend himself, we're just going to ask you if you just tell the voters what you want to know about you.
Okay, about me, okay. I'm tired of it, that's what it is.
I understand.
But I was on city council, or as mayor, for 3 straight terms back in the 90s. We had a good group. When I went on there, I learned a big lesson when I went on there, and I should have remembered it. When I was in the Army, everything was teamwork. That's the way you got along. You had to have teamwork. So the first night, I said, "Listen, I'm the mayor, and we're going to have teamwork here. No ifs, buts, and ands about it." And this one member spoke up and said, "You don't have the authority to say something like that." And I said, "I'm the mayor." And they let me know right quick that this weak mayor system. I kiss babies, I chair the meeting, and I sign documents. Everyone is equal. But before I left there, I let them know that we're having teamwork, and it worked. It worked for 3 straight terms. People turned over, but we had teamwork. Today, it's teamwork with 4 against 1. That's the way teamwork is right now. And I'd like to see it again, teamwork with 5.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and we do wish you all the best of luck in the elections.
That's it?
That's it. We just want to thank you, and to tell everybody that we also will have Jay Dugan will come up, so stay tuned for his interview. And we'll see you soon. This event is sponsored by Al's TV Antenna and Satellite, Brandon Bank, and American Legion. And it's hosted by Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association. See you in a few minutes. Thank you.
Welcome to Dunnellon's Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association and
American Legion Post 58.
Hi everybody, if you're just tuning in, we're going to continue our Meet the Candidates, which is for the 2020 Dunnellon City Council elections. We've already heard from Mayor Dale Burns, and we've heard from former Mayor Larry Winkler, and now we're going to hear from Councilman Jay Dugan. So we're going to ask him a couple of questions, and then after that he'll give you a little bit more information about himself. His opponent is Jan Cubbage. She has been invited to attend, but she has declined. So we're going to begin, and I want to let you know this has been hosted by Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association and sponsored by Al's TV Antenna and Satellite, Brandon Bank, and American Legion Post 58. So we're going to get started. Thank you, Councilman, for coming.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Joanne. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So
So-
we're going to start with some questions.
Okay.
We're going to ask you a few questions, and then we're going to let you talk about yourself and go from there, all right?
Got it.
So, as government plays a role in business, as you know, what would you do as a councilman to help small businesses in our town?
Well, I worked on that yesterday. In fact, I talked to the local radio station 104.9 because I know that he wants to grow in the area for his business ads, and we talked about adding an additional salesperson. He was candid saying that he's not good at one-on-one sales, and he would like to see if we could find somebody to help him. And it's important, I think, because the radio station gives a lot of local updates. Especially, I like the ads the businesses do, so that we're updated on what the businesses are doing. The Riverland News, as I mentioned before on another occasion, is very helpful, but not necessarily a day-to-day basis, which is what the radio wants to do. So that's just one example that I feel would be important, because this radio station is just for Dunnellon, and it needs more power and wattage, and we're hoping to work on that. So that's my answer on that particular one.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
The next question, what are your plans to help grow and bring more businesses into Dunnellon?
Well, I think that's a difficult situation, because I think some of the things that need to be done first are probably take care of the Highway 41 by the police department and beyond, where some of the empty buildings are, because that doesn't look good for people that want to come in business. So I think that's the first thing. The Dinkins old field farm that they had there is another location that perhaps businesses could take a look at. There's not, to my knowledge, an EPA problem there anymore with the gas tanks that were there at one time. So I think that really is first, is to let's clean up what we got, so we kind of make it attractive for other businesses to come in. Given the horse farm and the big billion-dollar investment in Ocala, I think that's where we probably should look to advertise and get people to come this way. And I would like to see at some point smaller subdivisions, 8, 10 homes, that people will be working in Ocala at the stables there, and could perhaps move over here to Tampa. And I think that's an opportunity that we really need to attack, because it's a billion-dollar worldwide organization. It's going to draw a lot of interest, and a lot of people don't know what we have to offer in Dunnellon. I think we should tell them.
Are you referring to the World Equestrian Center?
Yes, I am. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so they said they're going to bring businesses, people from Tampa, even further down south. That's
Yeah,
correct.
and international as well.
That's correct.
Yeah. So
I
it's a
think
big
we're in the
deal.
perfect spot for that. Thank you.
Correct.
If elected, what ideas would you do to propose to increase tourism in Dunnellon?
Well, I think we're doing pretty good actually on tourism. One of the problems we've had is the overcapacity on the river, and the police chief, along with the mayor and working with the county, helped to reduce that capacity because it was getting out of control. So I don't think it's an issue where we have to increase it. I think it's one we have to control right now in reference to the overcapacity on the river.
Because of the COVID-19.
Because of the 19, right. And that may change, but I believe the county came and said to us a week or two ago that they're going to only do about 350 tubes. And once those 350 tubes out of the KP hole are gone, then they're going to shut it down. And so that is helpful. But I think that the river, everybody has to understand, in my opinion, is the river is controlled by the state. The city really can't do much. The county really can't do anything. For example, everybody's concerned about the river, which is rightly so, but, and I digress for a minute, the pollution and nitrates coming in are coming from the north into the aquifer, not from anything we're doing. We do have some septic tanks that could be converted, that's true. But 40%, this is all the information I'm going to say is all verified by the state or private agencies. 40% of all the pollution coming into the rainbow is coming from cattle and horse farms north of us, be it not necessarily Ocala, but also in Chiefland, Lake City. If you do some research, you'll see that they have cattle farms there. Well, they're not going to go away because that's a mainstream for those particular counties. But that's where the pollution's coming in, so there's not much we can do about that. So we have to use the capacity as a way to go. I'm not saying we don't do something, and the septic tanks are something that should be converted. One of the things I proposed before I got involved was for the local, let's say 3 septic tank companies in the area, to give a special every year to the residents on septic tanks, and this also includes the Withlacoochee. I don't forget the Withlacoochee because I'm on the Withlacoochee.
Yeah, because we have 2 cities flowing
Right,
through our
correct.
I mean, two rivers flowing through
We
our
do.
city.
We do. And I think that if they came out with a 129-year special, because I was on a well at one time, and that dries up the drain field, because a lot of people think, well, I don't have to do anything for a couple of years. In my opinion, that's not accurate, especially if a hurricane or a storm's coming, because your drain field would flood. So I'd like to see us work with the various septic tank companies to give specials like that, which would be maybe a 50% discount. I'm not sure what they are charging now, But I think that might encourage people to pump out the septic tank and maybe realize that this is a concern for all people.
Thank you so much for
Sure.
that. So you already touched on this, which was perfect, but I'm going to ask you to kind of elaborate.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the blighted buildings that we have in town? And
Well-
you already said that because we do have some buildings that you want to clean them up.
Right.
So
Right.
what should we do with those?
Well, I think in a case like that, you really have to bring in some professionals that will work with the city and perhaps the county to try to figure out what's the best structure. And if you remember places like Georgia where they have a town square, we don't have that, but we do have East and West Pennsylvania. And we need to figure out a way that we can convert these buildings, if they can be converted, depending on the structure of them, because they are fairly old, into something that is going to be a tourist attraction to combine with the river, with the scuba divers that get checked out here, the kayakers, and the regular tubers. So it has to be a coordinated effort. I don't think there's one answer. I think there's probably several answers or solutions, but they're not easy. I wish I could say they are easy, but they're not. A lot of these buildings, especially the old police department, the one they're currently using, is, 30 years old, something along those lines?
More than that, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
well, and so that's a good example. So do you tear them down and start over? Most likely that's the case. And I think you have to bring in developers from the outside that see the vision that the city and the taxpayers see, because the taxpayers cannot afford to put any money into any of these situations. It has to be a bigger development that sees what we see.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing is, before voting on any issues, what are some of the things you do to help determine or decide your vote?
Well, number one is that before I even discuss anything, I took an oath to the state of Florida. I took an oath to the city in reference to sunshine laws, the city code of conduct. And so some things I may get questions on I can't answer because they're going to come up before the city council. So that's what I want to put out there first. I think that what I can do, I've only been on the city council for about 4 months. I came from the planning commission, and so I'm still new at all that. But I would rather listen to people like Larry who've done it before and try to follow on them. I want to keep an open mind, but I don't have a big answer for that one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Our city has faced years of financial issues and distress, as you know.
Correct.
How do you intend to keep a balanced budget?
Well, I think the city staff has done an excellent job of balancing the budget. I've been here for 20 years, and when the Green Light Communications came up, I wrote an article in papers on the record that this was financial suicide by the city. I was in telecommunications for 38 years. I was very familiar with cable operations, and there wasn't one viable overbuild in the United States. I called at that time the city manager, Lisa. I also got hold of the Regions Bank vice president who was handling the loan. I left detailed messages why this was going to fail, why you were going to lose money, and I never got any callbacks. And in fact, that's what happened. So I don't want to see any of that happen again at all. So when a project comes in, it has to have merit and it has to stand on its own. The biggest problem the city has is trying to increase their tax base. And so we cannot go ahead and take anything that looks like green light ever again. I know that 9 Island Cove came up, and before I got on the planning commission, before I got on the city council, that subject came up, and I was against it quite a bit because of the cost to the city. And before I became on the council or the planning commission, I went and spoke against it at the time. The city had done a study, a research on it, and it was going to cost $329,000 just for the first year. And then the city would have to maintain everything from then on out. And the infrastructure, et cetera, there is 15 years old and won't stand up to the new codes and what have you. Having said that, I have to have an open mind on anything that comes before me and the council. So I will consider everything with an open mind, and that's exactly what I have to do on every issue.
If they would only listen to you many years ago on Greenlight,
Well, unfortunately, that is true. She wouldn't even take my call, and the banker, and the reason they did it was that they wanted to, if the bank had a problem, it was going to be put on the city taxpayers, because he had a lien basically on the taxpayers.
Right.
And as we know, we still have debt of $175,000 a year to 2032 to pay off. And that's 50% of what we owed, because the bank had to take a 50% haircut or loss to settle it, so that the city of Dunnellon would not end up in bankruptcy, which the state would not allow.
Now, because you touched on this, when we paid the $175,000, is that interest-free, or is we paying interest as well?
No, there's no interest on it. It's a flat $175,000. So actually, that's quite good. It was a good deal that was cut, because inflation alone is roughly 1.5%, 2%, and at some point rates are going to be higher. So it's a flat $175,000, and so you lose money, but at least you're not going to lose as much as you could have if it had any interest rates.
Thank you so much for that, and thanks for clearing that up.
Sure.
So speaking of the budget, what do you think about, do we really need a new police department building?
All right, the way I look at it is this, is that we're one of the few cities that has a local independent police department. We've got 9 officers, 1 part-time. We have 3 that are in training that we're not paying for. I believe the county is paying for. And the county of the Marion County is 1,741 square miles. And when you have a problem in Dunnellon and you have Marion County, and I'm not being derogatory against the police department at all, because they're spread out so thin, but they're not going to get to us on a timely basis. If they're on 200 and 484, or they're 484 and I-75, we're not going to see them for a long time. By having a local police department, we're going to have calls answered within 2 to 3 minutes. And I think that's terribly important. The building that they are looking at is solid. We're in the process of buying it for $333,000. It had an assessed value of $410,000. It's perfect for the police department. It'll last 50 years or more. And that's what we have to look at. We have to look at beyond what we're doing now. And if you see the problems on the big cities, Portland, Seattle, New York, Chicago, we're planning that we don't have any of those issues that come up, and so a local police department is terribly important.
Well, I know it's important to our business owners as well, because
Right.
and even the people the tourism and also people that live here, they want to make sure they have that security. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Now, is there anything that you'd like to state? You tell us about yourself, where you come from, and why you're on the council.
Sure. I'm 74 years old. I've been married for 47 years. I've got 2 daughters, 4 grandsons. I've had a home for 20 years in Dunnellon. And I actually got into this for a couple of reasons. One, at the time when I was not involved in government, which I've never been, by the way, was Nine Cove. And then a vacancy came up in the Planning Commission, and I got appointed to the Planning Commission. And then, unfortunately, one of my neighbors, Linda Fernandez, died. And her honesty and integrity and drive for the city encouraged me to ask the city for an appointment. And I went against another individual, and I got appointed to the city council. It all was like a whirlwind, frankly. And I'm learning from the professionals that have been doing this for some time, who are dedicated to the city. And that's what I want to do. I'm for the taxpayer. I don't want to see increases. We've got a balanced budget. I don't want to see crazy programs like Green Light ever again. So right now, I think that the city is in good shape. And in fact, if we go back, I think it might have been 2016 or so, the city had quite a bit of debt, and the city council at that time worked their way out of that debt to where now we only have about $2 million, which is the Green Light Communications, and we can handle that. Now, another thing is, on November we have a 1% additional sales tax that might come into play, and I hope that passes. Nobody likes to have an increase, but that's $185,000 more to the city and some to the police department. So we did not put that in the budget because we do not know what's going to happen. I think the best way that I look at a budget is this. I was not a Boy Scout, but their motto, I think, is one for everybody, was be prepared. And so we are prepared in the budget, and we are prepared for inflation. we also have to be aware of the unknowns, such as a big storm or hurricane. We can't expect the maintenance of Troy and everybody to cut down the trees, and maybe 10 or 20 that on a big storm come down. We have to hire outside people, so we have to be prepared for the unknown.
So you said this 1% sales tax, that just does not go to the taxpayers, that goes to everybody that comes and visits, just like when you go to other towns. So then with that, it's going to come back to the city of Dunnellon to use, but is it going to be for police? Is it going to be for streets and roads? I mean, what else would that 1% be used for?
The 1% is for the whole county, of course, and we get just a portion of that, and it's
Okay.
estimated to be $185,000. The majority, to my knowledge, is going to go to the police department for operations.
Very good, thank you very much.
Sure.
I would like to give you an opportunity to set the record straight as to something that has been said about you that is incorrect.
Sure. Oh, I thought you had something you were going to tell me.
No, I don't have anything.
Because I can't guess. Well, I guess the biggest thing is the RRC doesn't like my stance on Nine Island Cove. And as I say, Nine Island Cove came before I got involved in politics, so I have to have an open mind. So everybody wants a park. Well, we've got 6 parks already. We don't, in my opinion, necessarily need a 7th, but I'll be open-minded. But it's the expense involved. If you look at an analysis, I know some people are doing an analysis and it may become public soon, and I haven't seen it, but they're going to delve into what the cost would actually be to refurbish, redo the roughly 47 acres or so at Nine Island Cove. And I think when that comes out, to the best of my knowledge, if they do a detailed analysis, I think people will be shocked what the overall cost would be to have another 7th park.
Now, I hear about, since you brought it up, so I can touch on it. So
Yeah.
is there grants out there that will actually pay for this cost that you're talking about?
Well, 2 things. The answer is no, but for the overall. The way it's structured is that there's a term called putting the property on an A-listed property, and it's undecided or unknown if it's a match. In this case, the property was sale for $900,000, so it's a match. The city has to come up with $900,000. Perhaps it's only 10%, then the city comes up with $90,000. But the point is, if that were to happen and go into effect at some point, the city is responsible for all the finances from there to the future. So if this thing costs $1.5 million or something, and again, I'm speculating, but I know there's an infrastructure problem there. The only people who are going to be responsible for it are going to be the city taxpayers. So the city taxpayers, the average 4-person family in the city of Dunnellon has a median income of $32,000. The United States government median income poverty level is $26,000. So we're only $6,000 above the poverty level. You cannot expect projects that don't make any sense, do not deliver any money, revenue back to the city of Dunnellon to be successful and put this on the taxpayers of Dunnellon. That's why my sign says keep the taxes low. We got a balanced budget and we prepare for worse things, but let us never have another green light communications.
I agree. Is there anything else that you need to clear up?
No, unless somebody hears something and let me know.
Now, one more. We'd just like to know if you'd like to make any last remarks to your viewers and your voters about, coming this upcoming election. We'd like to say anything to them.
Well, I think you have to look at the character of the people running. Give an example, there's going to be Larry Winkler and his dedication when he was mayor for 6 years in the 90s, and then he came back out of retirement to help clean up, as did other people like Chuck Dillon and others on the board who I was not around at that time as far as being involved in politics. I think you want to look at the integrity. One of the things and the reason why the only thing that comes up about me is Nine Island Cove is that they can't find anything on me because there's nothing to find. And since they can't find anything, I'm thinking maybe I lived a boring life. That could be the case, I don't know. But there's nothing there. And one other thing, since we're at the American Legion Hall, I'd like to say is that although I didn't get the opportunity to serve in the military, my brothers did. My brother Pat was a captain. He flew to C-141s in Vietnam. He was one of the last planes out of the Saigon airport. He took 600 people out. My brother Dale was in the Army. He blew out his knee, and he got discharged. So to me, that's the dedication that I want to bring to the city. And I just want to help, but I want to make sure there's no crazy projects.
I understand that, and thank you for your time on that. And the Dunnellon Chamber of Business Association and the City of Dunnellon has had a great partnership. And if elected, can we continue that partnership?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that I'd like to do. I didn't win the duck race, for example, but I think working with the Chamber of Commerce, because I will say this, I was very impressed with Julie, yourself, because of the number of various businesses you've been signing up. Really was a great surprise, a very pleasant surprise. And I think they're doing an excellent job. So the city has to work with that, and we also have to work with the county, because the county has more things going on than we do, and we have to work for them, be it the River or Blue Run or KP or what it may be. So yeah, I think that there's a great partnership there, and I hope we can find ways to make things even better and bring in other businesses.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
No, but I wish there was more questions.
Yeah. Well, we do appreciate your time
Sure.
and coming down here and being a part of this. Again, this is going to be the Meet the Candidate. It was hosted by Dunnellon Chamber of Business Association. I'm Joanne Black, the president, and I was the moderator for tonight. Also sponsored, oh, hold on, I think we have a question.
I have to say this. I just put in satellite TV by Andy's company. And Chris and everybody did a great job, because I have an old 2008 Pioneer cable TV that I didn't think I could get working again, and they did. So that's the kind of local things that I feel are important in the city. And also working with John and the radio station, trying to see if we can increase his coverage. I enjoy this stuff, and I tell it like it is. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's too expensive, I'm going to tell you. What you get is what you're going to get, the straight talk from me, and you're going to get it every time.
Well, we enjoy listening to John. He was our former president, so we love his radio station, because you're right, it's all about local.
Right.
And I too use Andy at my house for all my satellite, but he is actually our sponsor, and he's the one that's streaming it tonight. It's going to be on
Appreciate
the Owls TV Antenna and Satellite Facebook page, so tune in for that. He'll also try to get it on his YouTube channel. And our other sponsors are Brandon Bank. And let me just go back to Owls TV. They've been around since 1973,
Right here in Dunnellon.
right here in the same building.
Well, my dad started in '73 across from Scally's, and then in '77 he bought that building.
So that's a dedication. Also, Brandon Bank has been in business since 1926.
Right.
And also the American Legion. So we appreciate all our sponsors, all our participants. All the questions came from businesses that are affiliated with the Dunnellon Chamber and Business Association. So we do appreciate that. And you have another question.
I got another comment. I want to make it perfectly clear that I did not get any discounts from House TV. There was no quid pro quo, and I signed a 2-year contract, so I'm on the hook, and I'm glad I am, because it doubled my channels. But I want to make sure everybody know, I didn't take any donuts. I didn't take anything for it. I paid price like everybody else does.
I did too. I didn't get any discount.
Yep.
It's okay. I still have the best service, and we can call Andy whenever there's a problem.
Correct.
So I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And good luck in the elections. And thank you for tuning in for the Meet the Candidate. And we'll see you next time. Make sure you get out and vote.
Correct.
You must vote. This is a very important election, so we encourage everybody to vote. Hosting this, we like to be fair, honest, and impartial, so we wanted to give everybody the chance. As I explained before, we had the 3 candidates decline to attend, and that's okay. We just wanted to offer it to y'all or whoever wanted to, and thank you for being a part of it. So again, have a great evening.
I do want to add, this is what our 4th annual. How many times have we been doing this political?
Probably about 4 or 5 years, I believe you're
4 or 5
right.
years now. So this isn't something new that the chamber has been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Matthew started this up years ago, and we plan on continuing.
Yes.
Post-COVID, hopefully we can fill this building again with people and candidates from throughout the whole state.
I agree. Yes, thank you very much.